Hey, it's Alex Aronson here. I was talking to some folks over on James Razone's fan page, and I was sharing an article about the Russian amphibious group that was moving into the Black Sea. And I'd mentioned there that maybe I would put down a video kind of just going over my general thoughts on Ukraine. And I thought I'd go ahead and give it a shot. Studio's a work in progress. As you can see, I'm really just set up in my media room. So we'll see how it goes. First, a little bit of background. I don't have a lot of right to have a strong opinion about this. I'm not an expert in foreign policy by any means. I did spend some time as a Russian linguist in the Navy, and then I did get an undergraduate degree in international relations. And with that experience, I'm very qualified to maybe go get a master's degree, maybe get a PhD, but as you can imagine, it's not a lot. But I am pretty passionate about it. It's definitely in my interest, and of course, being a Russian translator, spending time in military intelligence, that really, puts this in my wheelhouse. This is something that I'm always going to be interested in. Another thing to point out is that nobody knows what's going to happen next. Even the guys in the Pentagon and the guys over in Fort Meade, they don't know. We're all just trying to take the information we have. Granted, they have a lot more information than I do, but right now everybody's just guessing. And in my case, it's somewhat of an educated guess. Your mileage may vary. So I think the first thing that I would want to talk about when it comes to Ukraine is to talk about how we got here. What's the makeup of Ukraine that's caused it to be right here in the middle of this situation where it's being pressured by the European Union and by the Russian Federation? And it's pretty easy to see for generally when you look at, okay, ethnically, there's a lot of cross pollination between the ethnic groups, between the Ukrainians and the Russians. And politically, if you look at how that's shaken down, it really creates a map of a country divided. You have everybody, you can almost split the country right down the middle, both geographically and by population. And folks from the or in the northwest of the country tend to be stronger Ukrainian nationals. They have more allegiance to Europe and trying to become more European, whereas in the southeastern half, it's more loyal to Russia. They identify more as ethnic Russians who are Ukrainians. So what that map, I mean, if you look at it, it looks like it's completely rigged for a civil war. I mean, you have two different ideologies, or at least two different political persuasions, who are geographically consolidated. And okay, but that's been the case forever. I mean, for as far back as we'd care to look, that's been the situation there. So why now? And really, to my mind, that starts with obviously the fall of the Soviet Union. But we can skip a little bit and get to the 2004 presidential elections. Now, the pro-Russian side, that would be Viktor Yanukovych, he lost that election. It was a close election, but he lost to Viktor Yushchenko, who was more on he was an independent on the European Union side of things. But that was their first. I don't remember if that was their first presidential election, but it was a little shady. In fact, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which was essentially set up to monitor elections in the Soviet Union and then the former Soviet Union, rated it as basically sketchy. Said, no, this didn't really meet our standards. But hey, everybody's learning, and so they go ahead and roll with 6 years of Yushchenko, and the next election is set for 2010, and this time Yanukovych wins. So again, remember, you have a country that is almost 50-50 right down the line, European or Russian. And this time, the ball falls on the southeast side. So Yanukovych wins the presidency. Now, there's a lot of allegations that he was corrupt. Maybe he was. I honestly have no idea. He really looks shady to me, but I'm not making any accusations. Uh, didn't matter though, because instead of waiting until the next election in 2016, he was essentially deposed in a bloodless coup in 2014. And that language might bother some people, but it was definitely an extra legal proceeding. I know that there is, some argument that, well, it was the parliament that got rid of him, and so yeah, it would have been better to just wait 2 more years and have an election. Of course, the fear was that he would steal that election, and so the 2016 election wouldn't be fair. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Russia, in response to this, acts almost against its own self-interest in a little way. They annexed Crimea. If you don't know where Crimea is, it is the southeast and it's the southernmost point of Ukraine. It's a peninsula that jets out into the Black Sea, and it's primarily Russian identifying ethnic Russian national. Well, they're Ukrainian nationals that identify as Russians. So and I say they're acting almost in their own against their own interest. That they just guaranteed by doing that, they guaranteed that the Russians would never win another election anytime in the near future, because they took a big chunk of the Russian electorate or the pro-Russian Ukrainian electorate and turned them into Russian citizens, so they don't vote in Ukrainian elections anymore. And that puts us where we are now. It's 2022. Things haven't really moved, but Russia has started to mass troops on the border. And has started to, I mean, this has been going on for a little while now. They have over 100,000 troops along the eastern border, so the western side of Russia, eastern side of Ukraine. They've also begun consolidating troops along with Belarus uh, to the northeast. And the final linchpin, what we've been tracking on James Razone's page, was the amphibious group that came out of the North and Baltic Seas to basically bring an additional brigade into play. And so the question on my mind has been, okay, are they really going to do that if this is just a bluff? Or is I mean, General Milley came out the other day and said that he thought that the Russians could take Kyiv in 72 hours. I don't know about that. I honestly don't see the Russians committing a full-scale invasion along multiple fronts in Ukraine. And the reason for that, and this might be my bias, I think they'd be afraid that they would underperform. I think that an exercise that large, especially in areas where they won't have the local population, I think they would be afraid of looking less effective. I don't want to say that they would do poorly. I don't want to say they'd be routed, but I think they might look weak. And so the more I was thinking about it, I thought, well, okay, maybe this whole thing is just a bluff. But I don't see that either, especially because, as I said, when they annexed Crimea, they guaranteed that they were going to lose influence in Ukraine. And so, okay, well, where does that leave us? And here's what I think is going to happen. And and this is where TC Manning is going to make fun of me a little bit because he called it. I had already thought it, but he called it on the page. I think that the Russians probably 60%, 70%, they're going to launch an invasion into eastern Ukraine. I think that the troops along the Belarusian border and the amphibious group are going to be used as diversions to essentially prevent the Ukrainians from being able to reposition troops. So by holding troops along by Odessa down on the coast, that's what that basically they have two brigades of naval infantry that they can station down there, and they can just do a feint and pretend, and they can shell from the sea. They can really make it look really good, but never have to actually commit to a landing. and that should tie up plenty of troops just trying to protect Odessa. Same thing with Kiev in northern Ukraine, with all those troops sitting along the Belarusian border. That's going to tie up. There's no way they're going to leave Kiev exposed. So that's kind of what I think they're going for, and then they can make military actions in territories where they know the local population will be more favorable to them, and they'll be able to advance quickly and essentially secure. Uh, it's hard to say how far in they would go, but I would expect that they would advance in at least to connect Crimea back into Russia. So right now, Crimea, they only have bridge and water access to Crimea. And so if they invade far enough into Ukraine, they could secure a land route into Crimea. And I think that would be about as far as it goes right now. Um, and obviously, like I said, this is my guess. I think there's still a 30-40% chance that this goes nowhere. um, that this is all posturing, but I really I have a mm, I don't know if my confidence is that high. Maybe it really depends on the day. But we'll keep an eye on the situation, and I'll definitely check in if and when something happens, or if nothing happens, and we can just kind of take a look at it. Well, thank you very much for watching this, listening to me rant on a little bit. I really appreciate your time.